Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be reacting to a video called 7 Surprising Things About Living in Finland. This is from a channel called Sive Sunny Kind Journey. So check it out. I do not have any idea how it is living in Finland. I think it's I know it's a sort of a weird country just because they're so isolated that I just find it weird, but it's obviously coming from an outsider's perspective. So I'm very excited to learn more from it. So let's check it out and comment, like, and subscribe.
Nordic countries consistently rank as the happiest in the world, making it seem like life here in Finland or in Sweden, Norway, Denmark or Iceland is as joyful as it gets. But if you visit here, you might not see what you expect. No big smiles from strangers, no high energy excitement, no intense expressions of joy. Instead, happiness here feels quieter. That's because nice. Nordic happiness is not about constant positivity, it's about peace of mind. Actually, if you look at Gallup's Global Emotions Report, which measures how often people smile, laugh or feel excitement, the top ranking country...
Okay, I have no idea what this is. It's the Gallup Global Emotions Report, daily emotions, short-term feelings, positive experiences, and negative experiences. Oh, because again, yeah, happiness, how do you measure happiness? It's not something you're constantly feeling as in every single day of your life, but it's not constantly smiling. Sometimes people are not smiling, but they're happy. So,
countries are mostly in Latin America and Southeast Asia, places where happiness is more social, more outward. In those cultures, joy is often expressed through big gatherings, music and community, and that's one way of measuring happiness. The World Happiness Report, which consistently ranks Nordic countries at the top, looks at something else entirely.
See, but again, everyone's different. So I think because happiness looks very different depending on the person, I don't think you can compare. I know some things maybe are very similar between the same culture, but it's just crazy
based on long-term life satisfaction, not just daily emotions. It measures things like financial security, trust in the government, work-life balance, and overall well-being. So even if Nordic people don't seem outwardly cheerful all the time,
they're happy.
They still report feeling deeply satisfied with.
It's funny because I think sometimes maybe you find someone that's really serious and you're like, oh my god, are you okay? And the Finnish person is probably gonna be, I'm the happiest that I've ever been. It's okay.
This is why from the outside, Nordic happiness might look kind of boring. No extreme highs or lows, no pressure to always be smiling, just quiet enjoyment of life. In many cultures, people feel pressured to always be upbeat, to push through stress with a smile. That's not a thing here. If someone is tired, they just look tired. If they don't feel like talking, they'll not talk. And that is not seen as rude, it's just normal. So if you want to imagine this visually, this happiness, in some cultures it might look like laughter and parties, but in the Nordics it looks like sitting by a lake in silence. So if you visit and wonder why people don't seem overly cheerful, it's not because they are unhappy, they are just peacefully content. By the way, sorry if I sound a little bit weird in this video. I have had this sore throat now. It's getting much better already, but I still have this weird voice that I cannot get rid of, but I hope you'll still enjoy the video. The second one is bureaucracy is intense, but there's a reward if you get through it.
That's
Nordic
usually
countries
the case.
have well-functioning systems. Healthcare, benefits, and public services are all reliable. But I have to say, getting set up is not that easy. Moving, working, or dealing with official documents can feel like an endless process. I experienced this firsthand when
and it seems like a loop is if, oh, you need this in order to get that, but in order to get that, you need to do this. And it's, oh my god, it's a constant loop. Then how do I get this if I don't have the other thing? It's just constant.
My partner moved here from Italy. It took many months of back and forth paperwork, visiting so many different offices and waiting on approvals. The good part is that once you are in, you rarely have to deal with bureaucracy again, at least that much. So all the taxes, healthcare, and social benefits are automated. There's no fighting with insurance companies or chasing invoices. Daily life runs smoothly, and there's very little paperwork to handle later. But getting to that point takes time, and for many professionals moving to Finland, handling everything alone is not ideal. That's why today's sponsor, Nerds Bay, exists, to make the process much easier. If you're planning to move to Finland but want to keep working for an international employer, figuring out the legal side can be overwhelming. There's the taxes, payroll, social security, contracts. It's a lot to handle on your own. That's where NerdsBay helps to make things simple. They act as your official employer in Finland through what is called an employer of record service. This means you don't have to go through the hassle of setting up a company or navigating complex employment laws. You keep working for your international employer and they take care of everything else there. Employment contracts, payroll, social security, sick leave, paid vacation, like all this stuff, while ensuring full compliance with Finnish labor laws. Here's one practical example. So Simon and Kate moved to Finland with their 3-year-old daughter, and Simon was able to continue working remotely for his employer thanks to NerdsBay. The entire process took just over a month. That is, I'm telling you, a huge difference compared to the months of uncertainty most people face. And it's not just about legalities. NerdsBay has built a community of over 10,000 skilled professionals who have been through the same process. So whether you need advice, support, or just want to connect with others who have made the move, it's a network designed to help you. If you are interested in moving to Finland and working hassle-free, you can learn more on their website. There is a link in the description. The third thing is, almost everyone speaks English, but there's a catch. The Nordic countries are among the best non-native English-speaking regions in the whole world. In cities, almost everyone under 50 speaks fluent English, and even in smaller towns, most people understand enough to get by.
Okay,
but
so
actually,
what's the problem?
People here often underestimate their own English skills. They might say, oh, I'm not that good, but then go on to speak almost perfect English. And even older generations manage quite well. My 87-year-old grandfather still travels abroad every once in a while and gets by just fine in English.
Wow.
So actually, when you think about it, it is completely possible to live in the Nordics for years or even decades without speaking the local language almost at all. Most jobs in international companies.
I think if you're moving somewhere permanently, you're going to have to learn the language. Even though, yeah, maybe you don't have to because you can communicate perfectly fine in English or whatever language you use. But it's just an understanding of the culture, and I don't know, just it speaks highly of you. If you have to really understand, if you want to really understand, a country or a culture or people, you have to understand their language as well.
Please use English here, and nearly every service has an option for it. Public transportation, menus in restaurants, and government websites often have translations available that makes it very easy. So all this is very convenient, of course, but it also makes learning the local language much harder because the environment doesn't force you to learn. And if you try to speak the local language, if you are studying it, people often switch to English right away. It's not because they don't appreciate your effort. It's actually meant to be helpful. They just assume that it is way easier for you to speak in English than their language. It is efficient, but for anyone trying to learn the language, it can be really frustrating. So to actually improve, you have to insist on continuing in the local language even when they switch. But despite all this, and despite being able to survive just in English, trying to learn the local language is, I think, still very valuable wherever you are, and people will always respect you a lot for it. Number 4, extreme seasonal changes.
Oh, does it get really hot during the
summer and winter here is very extreme. It's not just a change in temperature, it feels like two completely different countries. Winter here isn't just snowy, it is dark. In the far north, the sun doesn't rise for weeks or even months. In Svalbard, Norway, for example, the polar night, as it's called, lasts from late November to mid-January. That means total darkness for over 2 months. Even in the southern parts of the Nordic countries, winter days are extremely short. The sun might rise around 10 a.m.
And sometimes when it's just winter and this happens, and I don't know, it gets really, it gets dark at like 4 or I don't know, maybe 3. No, let's say 4 p.m. You're thinking, oh my God, I can't live like this. Imagine this, but no, it's like until 2. It's 1, no.
And said again.
You don't want to do anything.
So this lack of daylight, of course, affects energy levels, and it's common to feel
your
more
body,
tired,
your brain,
less motivated, and even experience this seasonal depression. when the sun
Yes.
barely makes an appearance. And then suddenly everything flips. In summer, the sun barely sets or doesn't even set at all. In Svalbard, the extreme
Again, and when the opposite happens and it's almost 9 p.m. and there's still sun, you're thinking, oh my god, I like it better. It's sort of the days are endless, but it has to come down at some point, right? We're not
light
vampires.
situation
Well, it's the
now
opposite.
continues in the complete other direction. So summer brings the midnight sun from April 20th to August 23rd. That's over 4 months
that's
without
a lot.
single night, like actual
What?
night when it's
Ah.
dark, as the sun stays up.
Which one's worse? I don't know. To have no sun or to have sun all the time? Well, that's I think a great sort of 20 questions game. This is the actual answer. Let's see how you'll deal
Above
with
the
it.
horizon the
What would you
entire
prefer?
time. Even in the south, there's still light well past midnight. The sun dips toward the horizon like just a bit, but it never truly gets dark.
You'll never go to
After
sleep.
months of darkness and cold, the light and warmth bring everything back to life. Like
but it's
the
very
cafes
extreme.
fill up and parks are packed and the entire
Finland is not a place of balance. No, everything's just very extreme. Polar opposites.
atmosphere shifts. But as extreme as it is, it's one of the things many Nordic people love the most, myself included.
Oh, really?
One
Okay.
is silent politeness.
Well,
In many
being polite
countries, politeness is
is being
about
silent.
words, saying please, sir,
It
madam,
depends.
excuse me, and making conversations to show your friendliness. Smiling at strangers, greeting people very warmly, and asking about someone's
polite.
day, even like casually, are all seen as basic manners. But in the Nordic culture, politeness is much more about actions than
leaving
actual
people
words. People don't feel the need to express politeness in a way that makes others feel good through conversation. Instead, they show respect by being efficient and giving others space and not making unnecessary.
I like that because I feel they believe that the whole I'm imposing myself on you. So if I'm imposing myself, I'm not being polite. So it's the opposite.
Demands.
Which I kind of
Nordic
like.
languages actually don't even have a direct translation for please in the same way English
What?
does. In Swedish, request often just use
You can't say
"kan du"
please?
or "skulle du kunna", which in English means can you or could you. It's direct but not considered
That would be extremely direct, and I think in some places would be considered rude because it's worse to please.
rude.
They
In
teach
Finnish,
toddlers
people use
this.
voisitko, which means could you, and also ole hyvä, which actually means here you go, not please. Instead of
Oh my
adding extra
God.
words to soften a request, people keep it short
That's so
and to
different.
the point.
And this is exactly what I mean. Sometimes you have to learn the language to understand how culture works because their brains just work differently.
But with their tone and phrasing, they make it sound polite. And overusing polite phrases can actually sound passive-aggressive instead of nice. So excessive
no.
thank yous or overly formal language can come
It's
across
ironic.
as unnatural, like you're trying
Sarcastic,
to harm.
not ironic. Yeah,
Number
it's like, oh,
6,
you're
the
being
big difference
sarcastic.
between North and
No, I'm
South.
being polite.
Denmark and Iceland are a bit different, but in Norway, Sweden, and Finland, there's a clear divide. The south is where most people live, while the north is vast
too
and
cold.
much less populated. In Finland, for example, about 80% of the population
Oh, wow.
lives in the southern third
How many
of the
millions are
country,
there?
while the north, Lapland, is mostly small towns and open wilderness. Sweden
there's
has an
nothing
even
there.
more extreme divide. The northern part of the country covers nearly 60% of Sweden's land area, but is home only to about 12% of the population. The further north you go, the fewer people you will find. In some areas, the nearest grocery store, hospital, or even in some cases the neighbor can be tens of kilometers away.
That's
Roads
insane.
stretch endlessly
You're being
through
isolated.
forests, and people are more self.
And also I think I don't know how they deal with this. They're extremely isolated socially, infrastructurally. There's like nothing there. And also, again, I wonder how they deal with the polar night. It's constantly dark. There's no one for miles. You feel like you're in a horror film.
Sufficient simply because they have to be. So this difference isn't just about population. It also
They don't
shapes
care.
how
That's
life
true.
feels. In the south, cities are well connected and full of international influences, and in the north, it's quieter, more traditional, and life
Even more
is really
quiet.
shaped by extreme weathers. Schools are often small, and for some students, getting to class means traveling very long distances.
Oh, really?
While tourism, especially for Northern Lights trips and outdoor adventures, has brought in more visitors and life to the north, daily life in these areas looks quite different
very
still
different,
compared to the south, where everything is close and accessible. The seventh one is quite interesting. People here are lottery winners, but they don't realize it.
Oh,
there's
not
a common
actual
saying
lottery.
in Finland that being born here is like winning the lottery. Free healthcare, high quality education, financial safety nets, and low crime rates make life here.
I was about to say, I think this could probably apply, a lot of these things could probably apply to a lot of countries, I think especially in Europe. But yeah, the financial thing, well, probably not every country in Europe.
Very stable and predictable. But when you have always had these things, it's very easy to take them for granted. In many parts of the world, people worry daily about things that aren't even a thought in the Nordic countries. Since major life struggles are mostly taken care of, here the focus shifts.
Yeah, of course you don't have to deal with the daily sort of trappings that a lot of people deal with, because you never think of this. But I think, yes, of course, this is the global south, or again, other countries have to deal with things that probably Finnish people didn't even cross my mind.
To smaller inconveniences.
So your energy goes somewhere else.
People get frustrated about high taxes, but they don't realize that they actually pay for the security and benefits that most people cannot even imagine. People complain about the bad weather, but at the same time, they have warm homes, reliable infrastructure, and safety even in extreme conditions. For many Nordic people, traveling or living abroad is the first time they truly realize how good they have it. I had this experience myself when I moved away at 20 years old, seeing places with poor infrastructure, big wealth gaps, and like actual homelessness for the first time made me appreciate the stability I grew up with. The things I once thought were just normal were actually luxuries compared to what many people face daily. This doesn't mean that Nordic countries are perfect. Every place has its problems, but the baseline quality of life is incredibly high compared to most of the world. And honestly, I wish more people here could see that and feel grateful for what we have. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to check out Nerds Bay in the description below if you're interested, and also to stay kind and meaningful in your own beautiful journey. See you in the next one. Ciao.
Yeah, he has a great point, specifically with the last one, because I do believe that people, obviously, again, if they don't really have to, I think, because they're from, obviously, again, if they're from Finland, they're not really thinking how, you usually use how the other half lives, in a way of, oh, this is how the rich people live, or this is how people have it better than me. But I think the other way also goes. I think people that have it just are very lucky. As he said, you win in the lottery, basically, just by being born there, which gives you access to so many things that other people in other countries and in other parts of the world couldn't even dream of. Like he said, there's some things that people just take for granted, because it's really how, and you're not blaming them, obviously, but it's just something that happens because, again, they take it for granted, basically, because, again, they never have to deal with it. They've never been in the position of having to deal with these things because, again, it's just how their country and how their culture works. But it's funny that, yes, they're probably never thinking about things that people in other countries have to deal with, because they're just unaware of this. And just as probably someone from another place, it's thinking the opposite when the ones they go and they thinking, oh my God, this is how actual people, how the other half lives. They don't have to worry about, I don't know, all the other things that maybe most people have to worry about. And even, I think it's just crazy because sometimes I think you compare, I guess also it depends on where exactly you're comparing this with. Because obviously I think other countries, the closest comparison would probably other countries in Europe, but I think maybe I actually have no idea. I don't know how the thing works in Asia, but I think probably other European countries, I think maybe you can get close to this or closer. Obviously in Finland, probably things are a million times better than other places in Europe, but if you're comparing them to other similar-ish countries in that continent, people are still going to be, they're still probably going to be amazed, but they're still going to be, oh, well, you guys have it a little bit sort of worse than us. But, it's still, wow, maybe it's a little bit of an eye-opening experience for Finnish people to realize that not everyone in the world lives like this. And that's obviously, again, you're comparing that as in Europe being the baseline. That's not even getting into, places in the global south in which, they have it much, much worse. So it's just kind of crazy to me how they probably need, to actually go there and experience it, to actually be, oh, what an eye-opening experience. Now I know how the other half lives, but again, in the opposite way, as in now I know how people they have to deal with things that we never in a million years will have to worry about this. But they probably aren't aware of this. And I think that's what he was going with this of how I think they take it for granted and they don't really realize how lucky they are. But I understand why. It's because, again, it's such a given in their brains and in their mindsets to not think about these things. And, maybe, again, basic infrastructure or, I don't know, corruption, your government being, you trust the government to not be corrupt or to keep you safe. I don't know, just a bunch of different things, that guidelines and all of that I think, of course, they don't cross their brains because, again, they've never had to deal with this. And of course, I think that's why it's important to maybe travel a little bit, or maybe just, I don't know, go online, speak with people of other cultures, just for you to understand how different, people are from you. But also, again, to give you this sense of, sometimes people are very lucky and you don't really, I think, reflect on this. And it's really easy, I think. Well, I don't know how maybe Finnish are just a different breed. But I think sometimes, even, again, in other countries, in probably in Europe and just whatever, when life, because like he was mentioning, oh, they're the happiest countries. And yes, sure, you can have that guideline. And, well, that it was sort of some sort of statistics that they use. I have no idea how they measured it. Because, again, happiness, like he said, happiness can look very different depending on the culture. I would go beyond that and say that sometimes it's not even about the culture. Sometimes it's about the individual and the individual person. So it's just dependent on so many different factors that you don't really, I don't know, it's hard to measure this because it's, again, I don't know what happiness looks like for you. It probably would be someone's worst nightmare. That, again, that's why people are very different and people are individuals and I don't know, every brain's a world. So again, what matters is that people actually, again, sometimes I think people take this a little bit for granted, and you don't really, because again, you're not happy all the time. Even Finnish people that are the happiest, sometimes, they don't have it. I would bet they're not super happy or super, I know, I don't feel great 365 days out of the year. Sometimes I'm feeling a little bit, whatever, for whatever reason, because life, there are so many factors that you can control in life, and that, your country can sort of take care of this to like the government or, the infrastructure, the free healthcare. I don't know. There's so many things that your government sort of can't take care for you, or, well, yeah, it's the government, right? It's the country. But so many of life situations sometimes are really, they're not anyone's fault, basically. They just happen. And it would be quite unrealistic to think, oh, people can go their whole life just being super happy. Just because, again, there are so many life factors that don't really depend on anyone, and they don't depend on the country or on the government. They're just life situations. And, it's okay to feel a little bit down sometimes. Everyone has their own, their own journeys or whatever. So you're not going to be happy every single time. But I think sometimes you take for granted some things that maybe other people, again, they have to deal with this. And some people, again, in places like Finland, because they're so developed, and I think that what he was mentioning, they're so incredibly developed that they don't really have to think, oh, we don't have to deal with this. And yes, great, but it could be, I think, a little bit of a culture shock if someone, you're speaking to someone from that, from that area, or again, they're sort of their eyes are being opened for the first time and they're seeing how other people live. And it's, oh my God, how can you live like this? I don't know. How can you live like this? It's really, I think it's just crazy how both, I know how people can sort of, I don't know, be, oh my God, I can't believe how you live like this. But the other person's also telling you, I don't know how you live like this. And obviously both people are, because they're live in their own little bubble, they're not really thinking about this. It's just my life. I don't have to deal with it. And the other person is probably thinking, well, I do have to deal with this. And I never really crossed my mind to not have to think about this. Or sometimes, people are aware, that no, I know that could be better. But again, for, different life circumstances as well, it's not really possible, for our country to do this or whatever it is. It's a whole slew of things. But whatever. It's just, that's why it's great to sort of communicate and understand other cultures and speak to other people and try to understand that not everyone lives in your own little bubble, because everyone's inside their own little bubble basically. So we're all just little bubbles in a pool. Maybe yes, we're all balls in a ball pit basically. So you're sort of inside. You're very isolated in a way. And speaking about isolation, I just think it's really, I never really would have thought that it was so isolated in apparently northern Finland. It's so rural apparently, which I think, oh my God, for being and that's maybe what it comes from. I think being, a developed country would feel a little bit different, right? I think I associate this with more, I don't know, like big cities and, really good infrastructure. No, that they don't have big and good infrastructure, but it's probably, again, it looks a little bit different and they have other services. They're not really wanting for anything. But it's funny to me how I was thinking, oh, but it looks so rural. There's just a little school and you have to walk miles to get to someone else. Or even again, the schools, they have to walk so many kilometers and miles to get to school. And it's a really developed country, so it's just kind of crazy to me. But again, it's just because it looks different. This is what I was going with, how happiness and I don't know, I get even the development index or whatever, it looks different depending on the place, and just depends on so many factors that again, they've never crossed their minds to think, oh, we live in a rural area. We think it's fine. To me, a very rural area looks very different. But again, it's maybe because I'm relating, being rural in other areas. So it just looks, oh my God, how is this? Is a huge hassle, and they're probably having the time of their lives. So again, it's the advice that I just said is really good, and these videos like this are quite eye-opening for everyone involved, because yes, you can really do see how other people live, and it's just, oh, you can really do change your perspective and realize, your baseline is not everybody's baseline, and that goes for everything, expectations, reality, and just a bunch of things. And also, it was really funny to me how the actual language as well kind of works, that apparently everyone speaks English and everyone sort of underestimates each other, and they're, oh, I speak really badly, which yes, sure, whatever, if people can communicate, sometimes even you speak really, really, you're not speaking, you're not fluent in anything, but you can get around. Humans are great at this. But it's really funny to me how you can just say, I can skip the learning Finnish part because it's a really tough language. But I would advise against that if you're moving somewhere, because again, the whole please thing and how the politeness works, that's one of the clearest things to me of, oh my God, that's what you need to learn, because otherwise you're never going to understand them and you're never going to understand how their brain works. And if you don't understand how some culture and how their brain is working, you're never going to fully integrate into a society and into a culture. It's the first step basically. So my advice is you're gonna have to learn Finnish at some point if you ever move to Finland. And that was it for today, and I'll see you next time. Bye.